Hello everybody, it's your Proftrof, and we're back again with another video. When stupidity goes wrong. Part 1 was awesome. Part 1 of this video was awesome, so let's go. Let's see more Darwin Awards.
Jamie Coots.
Pretty much what this is. Like, hide the mouse.
Jamie Coots was a 42-year-old snake handling pastor who died in 2014 from a rattlesnake bite incurred during a church service at the Full Gospel Tabernacle in Jesus' Name Church in Middlesborough, Kentucky. Coots was an experienced snake handler who'd been handling snakes for nearly 20 years when he was bitten for the 9th and
so how many wives do you have?
Final time. Coots had gained some notability after he was featured in National Geographic Channel's reality show Snake Salvation, which documented the lives of people who practice snake handling. Coots' religious conviction was based on a passage in Mark's Gospel which reads, "They shall take up serpents, and if they drink any deadly thing, it shall not hurt them. They shall lay hands on the sick, and they shall recover." Fellow preacher Cody Wynn told the news station that he had one of the rattlers in his hand. It just turned its head and bit him in the back of the hand within a second. Coots might have survived.
Yeah, maybe Mark was a little drunk when he
had his relatives not refused medical treatment for him, saying it was inconsistent with his religion. A year later, in an event that much reminded people of Coots' incident, a snake handling pastor in Pretoria, South Africa, reportedly died. Penwell Mnguni claimed he could turn snakes into chocolate and was feeding them to his congregants, along with rats and toilet paper.
What?
According to various news reports,
what?
He too was bitten by one of his own snakes, a cobra, and he too refused treatment, succumbing to his
Listen, after hearing all that shit, come on, snake would
long after.
it knew.
In true miraculous fashion, Mnguni turned out to be alive still after all and was last reported feeding frogs, worms, octopi, and dog meat and blood to his congregants. Number 11. Eric Barcia. In the late 1990s, Virginia man Eric Barcia died in an accident involving a homemade bungee rope. Instead of using a factory-produced shock cord, the 22-year-old fast food worker taped together a number of elastic ropes. The stretchy strands, which typically have hooks at their ends, are normally used to secure objects. Not only was his contraption extremely unsafe, but Barcia also critically miscalculated the length of rope that he needed before going on a railroad trestle at Lake Ocoting Park in Fairfax County. Barcia tied one end to his foot and anchored the other to the trestle. He then jumped 70 feet, or about twice the height of a telephone pole, towards the pavement below. Since the length of his homemade cord exceeded the distance he traveled towards the ground.
Natural selection. Listen, buddy, my guy, all you had to do was throw the rope down from the top and see if it hits the ground. Oh, that's all you had to do.
Barcia struck the pavement and died on the spot. Number 10.
I wonder if it would have actually worked and pushed him back in.
In 2017, Florida man Cedric Jokes faced firearm possession charges after accidentally sitting on his gun. As 38-year-old Jokes got into his car, he forgot that his weapon was on the driver's seat. He unwittingly sat on the firearm, which had been left armed and without a safety on. It discharged, shooting him in the manhood. The incident reportedly occurred outside of his girlfriend's home. Jokes, who was left in agony, rushed into the bathroom, holding his groin, and his girlfriend then drove him to the hospital. He survived, but no updates were released regarding his condition, and it isn't known if he retained the functionality of his privates. Jokes' accident also had severe legal implications, as he'd been convicted of a cocaine-related crime in 2004. As a felon,
so he smuggles coke in his ass and then shoots himself in the dick?
It was illegal for him to own a gun, meaning that aside from excruciating pain, he also faced time in prison. Number 9. Gary Hoy. On July the 9th of 1993, Toronto lawyer Gary Hoy fell to his death from the 20...
I think I've heard about this. The dude that would always say, "Look at how strong my window is," and would bash himself into it. Right? Is this good? This dude? This dude's famous.
Floor of his office building.
Hoy
was given a tour to a group of students and decided to show them a stunt he'd reportedly tried many times before. The 38-year-old told them that the windows of the Toronto Dominion Center were unbreakable, and to prove it, slammed his body against the glass. Like with Hoy's previous demonstrations, the glass didn't break, but unfortunately, he didn't bounce back to safety either. The impact was strong enough to pop the window out of its frame, and Hoy plummeted to his death. A structural engineer
He was right, the window was indestructible.
Who commented on the case for a local media outlet claimed that he'd never heard of a building code that would allow a 160-pound or 72.5-kilogram man to run up against a glass and withstand it. Number 8.
Listen, there is one cure for stupid.
Eistinson. Sigurd Eistinson was a 9th century Viking ruler who played a leading role in the conquest of what would later become northern Scotland. He expanded his territory from the islands of Orkney and Shetland into the mainland, and his military exploits led to him being known as Sigurd the Mighty. Towards the end of his reign, he challenged rival...
That's Warband. That's... Wait, I think I know about this. Wait,
male Brigty the Bucktooth to battle.
Is this where he killed the dude, cut his head off, put it on his horse, and the head accidentally bit him or some shit and he died from an infection?
They agreed to each bring only 40 men to the confrontation. Sigurd, however, would treacherously come with double the amount of warriors. Male Brigty was defeated and decapitated, with Sigurd attaching his severed head to his saddle as a trophy. Even though he triumphed over his rival, Sigurd's hubris would echo through the ages. As he rode, male Brigty's bucktooth caught him on the leg. The wound became infected and ultimately led to Sigurd's death. Number 7. Bojan Bish.
That's still a way to die, bro.
Croatian man Bojan Bish had spent 5 years behind bars in the city of Pula before an additional 8 months were added to his sentence for sending death letters to an ex-girlfriend. About 2 months before he was scheduled to be released, his behavior became increasingly more erratic, to the point that the guards decided to lock him in a rubber-padded cell. Even though he was in solitary confinement with both hands tied behind his back, Bish managed to pull out a lighter that he'd smuggled inside. He started a fire near the door, presumably in protest, or so that he'd be relocated to a regular cell. Security cameras captured the moment that the fire consumed the highly flammable materials. Before the guards noticed the smoke coming out of the cell, it was already too late. Some reports claim that they purposefully delayed their intervention in order to teach Bish a lesson. Whatever the case might have been, the blaze rapidly extended and they could no longer enter the cell. Bish succumbed to smoke inhalation and his body was consumed by the flames. Number 6. Tetsu Shiohara.
He succeeded, they put him in another cell. Coffin cell. Sorry.
In late October of 2019, a Japanese man took on Mount Fuji outside of the regular climbing season and with minimal equipment. 47-year-old Tetsu Shiohara live-streamed his ill-fated adventure on Japan's tallest mountain. Climbing Mount Fuji is only permitted during the summer, when the snow melts and the huts are open. Shiohara had been on the mountain several times before, but trekking it outside of the warm months is considered extremely dangerous. In terms of preparedness for the
Japanese man wins Darwin Award.
Shiohara wasn't wearing crampons and had little else aside from a pair of hiking poles. He'd named his live stream "Let's Go to Snowy Mount Fuji," and a number of commenters online argued that the title itself denoted the level of ignorance with which he approached the climb. At one point, Shiohara claimed that his fingers had gone numb and expressed regrets at not having brought heat packs. Nevertheless, he prioritized filming instead of personal safety and kept heading towards the summit. After a grueling trek, Shiohara was only a few dozen feet from the top. The man passed the safety fence and then told his viewers that he'd reached a dangerous portion. Moments later, he started slipping, feet first, towards the clouds below. Shiohara failed to regain his footing and kept tumbling down the side of the mountain, while his phone was still recording. His lifeless body was discovered a few days later at an altitude of around 10,000 feet. Number 5. Dean Smith.
That's one way to go.
In June of 2016, an Australian man was severely injured at a museum after running straight into a wall.
How is there so many dangerous animals in Australia and I've not heard like one person dying from it? There's probably is one, but like...
While racing a virtual athlete, Melbourne's Science Works Museum had a special installation in which visitors could attempt to beat a digital version of track legend Kathy Freeman in a race. In the interactive display, a series of images depicting Freeman would sequentially light up to mimic her speed. Visitor Dean Smith, who was in his early 40s, accepted the challenge. Unfortunately, Smith got a little overzealous in racing the digital gold medalist. As a result, he plowed headfirst into the wall at the end of the exhibit. The man was rushed to the hospital, where doctors told him he'd been millimeters away from becoming a paraplegic. He'd crushed a vertebra, fractured an occipital bone, and broken a rib. Smith also suffered a stroke from a crushed vertebral artery meant to supply blood to his brain. He was unable to work in the incident's aftermath. Smith eventually sued the museum, claiming that the inadequate
of course he did.
Had prevented him from seeing the wall until it was too late.
Yep. Walls, they sneak up on you.
Explosion. In 2019, a driver narrowly avoided death following a massive explosion that he triggered inside his car. The incident occurred in the town of Halifax in the United Kingdom. While in stationary traffic, the unnamed driver used an excessive amount of aerosol air freshener inside his car, even though it's general knowledge that the contents of such products are highly flammable. The man then lit up a cigarette. The ensuing blast was powerful enough to shatter the vehicle's
How much do you need to put in there for it to be a blowing up thing?
Windows, buckle its entire frame, and even damage the windows at nearby businesses. The driver was extremely fortunate, as he'd only escaped with minor injuries. Number 3. Aaron DeBella.
Wow.
In September of 2018, near Hull in Massachusetts, 21-year-old Aaron DeBella died after attempting to do a handstand on the bulwark of a cruise ship. DeBella and a few of his friends were on the cruise celebrating a birthday. He'd reportedly thought it would be funny to pretend that he was hanging off the side of the ship. The crew had spotted him attempting the dangerous stunt and told him to stop. DeBella initially complied, but about an hour later tried to do the handstand again. On his second attempt, the young man lost his balance and fell over. Life rings were thrown in his direction, while a crew member jumped in the water and got within a few feet of him. Unfortunately, he didn't reach DeBella in time, and he drowned.
Wait, he drowned? Oh, I thought the ship got him. Because, like, those ships, they look big and slow. They're big, but they're not slow. If that shit catches you, you become, like, you're a red mist.
Was requested by Paranova and Maurizio Martinez. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comments section below. Number 2. French kings and door lintels. 2 French kings died under similarly avoidable circumstances several centuries apart. Louis III ruled West Francia in the late 9th century. The young king's reign, which only lasted about 3 years, was cut short by an accident involving a horse, a girl, and a door lintel. 17-year-old Louis was promenading through the Parisian commune of Saint Denis, which was at the center of his realm. A girl caught his eye, and as she headed towards her home, Louis mounted his horse to pursue her. As he was following the girl, he didn't notice a door lintel and hit his head on it. The impact threw Louis from his horse and he fell, breaking his skull. Over 600 years after his death, Charles VIII of France suffered a similar fate.
Damn, bruh! Look at that thing!
He was going to watch a match of jeu de paume, which is an early version of tennis. On the way, Charles accidentally hit his head on a door lintel, sustaining massive cranial trauma. As he returned from the match, he abruptly fell into a coma and died several hours later.
Of course, what's wrong with you?
Number 1. Zaim Koznan.
Zaim?
In 2018, a Malaysian man was strangled by a python that he was attempting to take home on his motorbike. 35-year-old Zaim Koznan, who was described as unemployed, spotted the 12-foot-long serpent on the side of the
road. He's described as unemployed.
And decided to capture it, believing he would be able to sell it. Koznan used gloves and a sickle to handle the python. He then drove away while holding it by its head. It wasn't long before the python started constricting him, thus causing Koznan to crash his motorbike. The animal continued to coil around Koznan, and he eventually succumbed to its powerful squeeze. A passerby spotted him the following day with the snake still wrapped around his lifeless body.
I mean,
thanks for watching.
You grab me and try and drag my ass, I'm gonna try and strangle your ass as well. I kinda don't feel bad for him. I kinda don't feel bad for him at all. What the hell are you doing, brother? Jesus Christ. Yo, what y'all think about this video? I hope he makes more of these. This is... What? Why is a pig trying to kiss a crocodile? Whatever. Quick thank you to the YouTube members and Patreons. Thank you all for the support. Hope y'all enjoy this. Like, comment, hit subscribe, hit the bell icon, and have a nice day, everybody. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.